We know many of you listen to this podcast on the go, driving to work, working out, even doing chores. Now you can get CPE credit for that time. With Earmark, you can earn free NASBA approved CPE for listening to the Inside Public Accounting podcast. After you listen to an episode, take a quiz and your certificate will be ready. Earmark has courses for everyone in your firm, from staff to partners. Get started today at earmark.app or download the free app on the App Store.
Welcome to the Inside Public Accounting podcast, where we talk about the numbers and narratives shaping the profession. I'm Rob Brown.
And I'm Chelsea Summers. And today we're going to be tackling kind of a tough one. It's accounting's image problem. You've probably heard it before: long hours, there's not enough transparency, and a real struggle to attract the next generation of talent.
It's a constant narrative. We hear it in so many conversations. We can't find people. We can't get the right people. We can't retain our best people. The truth is, it's not just a pipeline problem, it's a perception problem. And I've spoken to heads of CPAs and societies, and even at the top, they're admitting the same things.
Exactly. The profession really is full of opportunity and flexibility and purpose, but that message doesn't seem to always be getting through. So today we're going to dig into the data and some of the myths and what firms can do to turn that around.
Chelsea, I'm really excited about this because we often hear we should all tell a better story about how accounting is such a great thing to do and a great career to choose, but never before have we had the data behind that. And this is what Inside Public Accounting was really good at. You work with hundreds of firms every year. So what do leaders say when you ask them about the image of the accounting profession?
Yeah, so most of them are going to admit that accounting may not be seen as exciting. Many firms cite that recruiting and retention are really some challenges that their firms are facing. In the 2025 IPA Human Resources Report, 29% of the staff across firms are under the age of 30, and more than half, at 54%, are under the age of 40.
Now, that surprises me because we often hear about the aging profession and how so many are close to retirement age. So you're saying that more than half the workforce are millennials or Gen Zs. Yeah, that's not the picture most people have in their heads.
Exactly. The profession is evolving. It's younger, it's more diverse in backgrounds, and it is more tech-driven than people are really realizing. But the story doesn't seem to have caught up with that narrative.
Yeah, the narratives are not matching. Maybe that's because for years it's all been about busy seasons and burnout and overwhelm and the psychological contract, and you work 80 hours, we'll chain you to a desk, you might make partner, you love it, it's great. That reputation's not good, is it?
It's not. And the profession was built on hard work. But younger generations are really defining that hard work differently. They're not necessarily rejecting effort. They're really stepping against the imbalance. They want the purpose and flexibility and transparency in their firms.
Now, we hear this in conversations and anecdotally, Chelsea, but what you're good at is bringing data to the conversation. So the data says firms have these young people inside, there's plenty of them, but the culture, the communication, the perception is maybe keeping people away, right?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair summary. The image problem isn't that accounting isn't modernizing. It's that people outside of the profession aren't seeing that modernization that is already happening in the profession.
Getting to that legacy of long hours, I'm sure. When we talk to managing partners, a lot of them say, and you talk to a lot of them, it's just part of the job. That's the stripes that people have to earn to get through. It's that rite of passage. It's what I did when I was younger. But what does the data say?
Yeah, so I hate that. It's always been done that way. So let's continue doing it
Yes,
that way. Like, that serves no one.
I did it, so they have to do it.
Walk uphill both ways. I think turnover really tells the story here. Across all firms, professional staff turnover averages 11.8%. And 71% of that turnover is voluntary, meaning that the people are choosing to leave.
We heard of the great quitting back in COVID days, and people were really recalibrating what they were doing with the career. And a lot of people were leaving accounting. They were going into tech, going into industry, or just coming out of the profession altogether. But I'm staggered at how high that voluntary rate of churn is. So it's not just layoffs, Chelsea, is it? People are actually walking away.
Yeah, and the culture and workload and balance, I think, are really at the center of that. People are going to give a lot to their career if they feel value, but they're not going to sacrifice everything.
Something we hear from these young people, they'll say, I don't mind working hard. I just don't want my work to consume my life.
Yeah, and firms are starting to respond to that. According to IPA's 2025 HR survey, 92% of firms offer work from home options, and 90% of firms allow flexible schedules. Those numbers really surprised even me. Firms have taken some of the lessons that were learned during the COVID era and allowed many of their staff to keep their flexible schedules.
It's huge. If 9 out of 10 firms are offering flexibility, remote, hybrid work, and then the image of this chained to your desk until you die, until midnight, that's an old way of doing things.
It is. And the profession hasn't done the best job of marketing that evolution to prospective employees.
Right. Because if I'm a college student and I'm hearing about accounting and talking to these people I know that are going through that, I'm still picturing the tax season horror stories. So the game has to change, right?
Yeah, firms really need to show what modern accounting careers look like. There's technology, advisory work, and heavy client impact. Otherwise, the stereotypes that they're hearing are what's going to be pervasive.
Just a quick side note here. We've had a lot of stories about the call back to the office, not necessarily in accounting, although it's bleeding into that, but these big tech companies calling people back, that's not popular, is it? And we can see why now if 9 out of 10 are saying we don't want to do that.
Yeah, and the data shows us that there are a lot of firms who are offering the flexibility. That doesn't necessarily mean that all of them are, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's, 5 days you're working from home. There's a balance there, and some firms are shifting and changing, but the majority of the firms that we work with do offer that flexibility to their staff.
Well, the word transparency jumps to my mind. We talked about it before. You've mentioned how firms don't communicate how much they earn and how they earn it. But equally, on the labor, the talent side of things, firms need to show what modern accounting careers look like. The technology, the advisory, the client impact. They don't need to lie that there's hard work at times, but the stereotypes are doing the talking.
Yeah, and historically, accounting firms have operated on like a need to know model. Information on the revenue, on the profitability, or partner compensation, it was really closely guarded. Many partners may be worried that sharing that data can cause tension or demands for more pay.
So when it comes to transparency or the lack of it, Chelsea, we've spoken on this show before about how firms at the top don't often share how the money goes and what's being earned. And few firms are sharing performance data, partner income, promotion pathways with staff. Why is that?
I think historically, accounting firms have operated on a need to know model. Information about revenue or profitability or partner compensation was really closely guarded inside the firms. And many partners are worried that if they share the data, it will cause tension inside the firm or possibly demands for more pay.
Yeah, but that kind of lack of openness can backfire.
It really can. Gen Z really values transparency, and that is a form of respect. They want to understand how the decisions are made, what success looks like, and how their contributions are making changes inside the firm and affecting the firm.
The story I hear a lot is that we want to be part of the vision. We want to be part of the story, and they can't do that if they don't know what's going on. And I guess the numbers still show there's a lot of work to do on representation as well.
Yeah, definitely. Women make up 57% of professional staff, so a majority, but only 25.6% of equity partners. That is fully improving, but it really sends a mixed signal to young professionals who are looking up the ladder.
They want to see people like them.
Exactly.
What do we know about diversity overall, Chelsea?
Yeah, that's another tough one. Across firms, about 3% are identifying as Black, 6% is Asian, and 5% is Hispanic. Those figures have barely moved in the last several years. And only 32% of firms have a formal DEI plan.
Well, I'd love to get into why that is, but there are so many different moving parts there. And our job on the Inside Public Accounting podcast is really to report on the trends and let the world know that they are happening. Not so much why they're happening and certainly not how to solve them. But yeah, it's great that we're calling out. So what we're seeing here is for a generation that's grown up expecting openness, inclusion, equity, the profession still looks a bit opaque.
It does. And it's not just about the demographics, it's also about culture. If young staff can't see the path or don't feel heard, they're going to start to look elsewhere.
So transparency is not just an internal HR piece, is it? It's a branding piece. So let's talk about recruitment and employer brand. Is this a great place to work? What's it like working at our firm? It's a big headline. We know the pipeline is shrinking and firms have got to be doing all they can to bring people in.
Yeah, the pipeline has been shrinking, but we have seen a few encouraging signs lately. For several years, the number of accounting graduates was falling. The AICPA's trends report, most recent data, shows the trend might be starting to turn. Undergraduate enrollment was up to 12% in the fall of 2024, with more than 267,000 students now studying accounting. Firms are starting to feel that shift. They're adapting. In the IPA HR report, 83% of firms have formal college recruiting programs, and they're averaging recruiting on 8 campuses. In larger firms, that's even higher, about 16 campuses. So the pipeline is still pretty tight, but there's energy in rebuilding it.
Hear that. I was at the Charlotte, North Carolina campus recently, and I was talking to some of the professors there, and there were 8 representatives from 8 different firms talking to them about internships and how they were bringing people in and trying to create liaisons with the universities. It's encouraging. It
Yeah.
sounds like the tide might finally be turning, but even with that uptick, Chelsea, firms have got a lot of work to do to reach these students and get the right message to them.
Yeah, they really do. And more firms are starting to expand their reach. 14% of firms now target computer science and engineering majors. 20% look at general business degrees, and 16% are recruiting from other non accounting programs like economics or data analytics.
It's a big shift. It tells us that firms are not just waiting around, they're redefining what the labor market looks like, who they're going after, what accounting talent looks like.
Yeah, and I think the internships also remain critical. 87% of firms are offering them, and they're hiring a little over half of their interns to full time employment.
So the entry point's strong, but keeping that talent, I suppose, is a talent. You get them in the door, but you got to keep them inside.
Yeah, exactly. And some firms are using signing bonuses to help. Percent of firms are offering them, and they're averaging around $4,000 for a signing bonus. And 90% of employees have referral bonuses. But money alone is not going to fix a culture problem.
Yeah, right. Throwing money at it, that's never worked in the past. If someone leaves, it's probably because of burnout, lack of mentorship. They don't get on with their manager. They often leave a bad boss more than they leave a bad firm. A signing bonus is not going to keep them there or bring them back.
Exactly. And once they're in the firm, mentoring programs really matter a lot. 71% of firms have formal mentoring programs, and about 3/4 run engagement or satisfaction surveys to really get a feel for how the staff feel about the firm. So those are some good signs. I think one of the big missing pieces there, though, is a follow through. If you're going to do the mentoring programs and run the surveys, you really need to listen to the feedback and then make changes and act on it.
I'm hearing that Gen Zs, they don't just want flexibility, they want a voice. They want some autonomy, some
Exactly.
flexibility, some authority, a chance to influence things.
Yeah, they want to know that their ideas matter and that their work has impact and they're growing in a firm that reflects their values.
And when you put it all together, Chelsea, it's clear that the profession is changing faster inside than it looks from the outside. That speaks to the brand of accounting and how the profession looks externally. Let's talk about what some firms are doing right. This modernization we should be shouting about. What does best practice look like?
Yeah, firms aren't always great at telling that modernization story externally. Students still think about accounting, and that means cubicles and spreadsheets. But the modern firm looks more like a hybrid tech consultancy.
Interviewed somebody recently that talked about how accounting firms are becoming more like SaaS and tech firms. So, which is a good thing in a way. Accounting doesn't just need a new pipeline, though. It needs a new PR campaign.
Yeah, the work is more interesting, it's more flexible, and it's more impactful than people are realizing. Firms are helping clients navigate technology and sustainability, cybersecurity, and succession. These are business critical issues.
Yeah. And accounting creates such a good pathway to so many other careers. So maybe the new story is this, Chelsea, that accountants are the problem solvers for the modern economy.
Yes. And if the profession can shift away from we work long hours to we solve complex problems for our clients, that could help attracting the next generation.
That you should be the ambassador for the professions. That came out really well. Well, let's
Oh,
circle
thank
back
you.
on something you said earlier. It's an image problem, yes. It's also a communication problem. So how do firms fix that?
Yeah, I think they need to start by auditing their own culture. Don't market a flexibility if it only exists on paper. Don't talk about mentorship if it's not supported inside the firm. Your authenticity really matters.
Because these Gen Zs, they can smell BS and lip service a mile away, can't they?
They can. And I think the second step would really be visibility. Firms should spotlight their people and not just their partners. Show young professionals that are thriving in their hybrid roles, in their leadership tracks, in their advisory teams.
That's the transparency we talk about. Maybe even talk about openly the numbers, the performance metrics, or explain how profit sharing works. Transparency builds trust. You've said that before, Chelsea.
Yes, and the firms that communicate clearly about pay and performance and opportunity, that helps to create buy-in. And the buy-in is what keeps people around.
Said it before too. Accounting doesn't have a math problem, a numbers problem. It has a marketing and an image problem.
Yes, the numbers are solid. It's the narrative that needs updating.
I like that. It's a message to all of us. Accounting as a profession, it is stable, it is respected, it is relevant, it is essential, but it's competing for attention against all the other industries that are selling a lifestyle, they're selling a purpose, they're selling something meaningful. We're in that game.
Yeah. And if we could tell the story on how accountants are helping people and businesses thrive, not just file tax returns or check boxes, then we can change the perception.
Well, let's finish on a practical note. We're good at reporting what the issues are, and we're good at actually saying why these are a challenge. But let's see if we can give these firm leaders some takeaways here. What can they do this quarter to start improving the image of the profession that's going to help everybody?
Some small steps that can be taken is listen. Run a stay interview or an engagement survey and act on it. 75% of firms are doing them, but fewer closing that loop on the feedback they're receiving. Showcase your people. Let your younger staff tell your story online. They'll connect with the younger generation far better than an ad campaign would. Also, live your values. If you're promoting flexibility, then model it. If you talk about transparency, share your metrics. And celebrate your wins. Accounting firms do really great things behind the scenes. Bring those stories out, share them.
I love that last one very much. There's so many good things happen in a firm that never get spoken about. So the great things accountants do are just well-kept secrets. That's really good advice, Chelsea. Thank you for that. And the data seems to back it up. Firms that embrace transparency, flexibility, career visibility, they've got to be the ones that keep the best people.
Yeah, accounting has always been about trust. The challenge now is rebuilding that trust with the next generation, showing them that accounting is a profession where you can have balance and purpose in a meaningful career.
Said that is the future of the accounting profession. That's what this show is all about. We love shining a light on what works in accounting. Thank you for joining us. It's been another wonderful show, Chelsea.
Yeah, be sure to follow, share, and join us next time. We're going to dive deep into other topics that are of interest for partners in the accounting profession.
We'll see you next time.